Hello and welcome to BW Hotwires. Today we have with us Mr. Moran, founder Zoomcar India Private Limited. Hello, Mr. Moran. Thank you for talking to BW Businessworld.
Sure. Thanks so much for having me.
It's been at least 5 years that you floated Zoomcar, and you wanted to redefine mobility. So, how has the journey been so far, and how have the things shaped up? Can you run us through it?
Sure. Yeah. Well, so first off, it's been since midway through 2013. So we're 7+ years, almost 8 years into the journey. So it's been really an incredible ride across for those years. And I think we started in Bangalore. That was our first market, first city. I've been permanently based in Bangalore since the end of 2012. In fact, even prior to our launch. So it's been really tremendous to see the evolution and progress of the business and the broader industry along those times, along the years. Now, I think more specifically to Zoomcar, if you look at it cumulatively, kind of historically, we've actually done over 6 million transactions on the platform since we started. So, and that's 6 million transactions. We actually have over 3 million active users today. We've traveled, in total, our vehicles have traveled over 2 billion kilometers. So, just to give you a sense for that kind of pan-India scale, we have a footprint across 50 cities. And so across all of the tier 1, tier 2, and many of the tier 3 markets. So, certainly we have a strong sort of pan-India footprint, and we have not even just across the cities, but also across airports, railway stations, etc. And obviously, given COVID, there's been obviously certainly I would say an evolution in how people use our service and how people travel. I think what's really important to note over the last 12 months. In particular, we've actually seen a surge in demand relative to other mobility form factors. So if you look at ride hailing, if you look at sort of shared mobility around mass transit, etc., it's obviously been a lot more challenging just because of the broader psychology and the perspective of people where they obviously want to be very, very safe and secure, and they want to take take any unnecessary chances or risks. I think that's where personal mobility, so a platform like Zoomcar actually helps. Where since we have a majority of the market share, people gravitate towards something that they have used for a long time, they can rely upon, it can be consistent, etc. as a service. And that's exactly what we are doing. And I think as we go forward, now coming out of on the back of COVID, our primary focus is to build our supply, in a very significant way, so that we can continue to serve different use cases for people going forward.
Hi, Greg. My name is Abhinav Trivedi. I'm the managing editor at BW TV. If I rightly understand from the data available, you still own more than to the north of 18 lakh rupees to your subscribers and associates, which needs to be refunded. Is that data correct, number one? And secondly, what are the steps which are being taken by the company so that the same mistakes are not repeated by the company? Because retention is a very important part of your business.
If you look at it, it's something where we don't that balance is zero. I mean, so the mechanics of it, if you really look, there's obviously there's always going to be receivables and payables and if you're talking, I mean, your question was specific to subscribers. Obviously we don't have a huge number of subscribers because a lot of during the pandemic, a lot of people because they were not allowed to use vehicles and there was restrictions, we basically gave moratoriums to a lot of our subscribers. And sure. So in a lot of those situations, so we were actually owed a lot of money. In some cases they were owed money. So, it obviously it's, so I wouldn't, definitely I wouldn't categorize that as, an issue or something. And that's just normal, par for the course, given the current environment. That's just normal operations. So I wouldn't really, kind of look at that in any particular light, because it's just kind of normal business as usual modalities tied to, that type of environment where you have, a lockdown in place, right? So I don't think there's a challenge there. If it's a more macro question, I mean, to the first point of it, because you kind of had a lot of points there, so yeah, the broader numbers are correct. Like about half is actually owned, and then we also work with leasing companies. So there was a broad change in terms of lease accounting where that's treated in terms of consolidation. So if you look at the numbers tied to kind of losses, remember, keep in mind that this is not a reflection of cash profit. A lot of this is these are like technical book accounting purposes, so it doesn't really have any factor or merit tied to understanding sort of business viability, because it's really an accounting treatment, right? So I think it's important to distinguish between accounting treatments and actual business performance in terms of operating cash flow.
So how big are you betting on this as a future of mobility? Do we expect 50% of your fleet or a sizable chunk of your fleet to be zero emission vehicles? If yes, can you put a timeline for that?
Sure. So yeah, I know. Look, it's an important question, I think, because ultimately, though, to unpack that, really, it's about what the ecosystem is allowing for in terms of product. I mean, the product has to be there in the ecosystem, right? So if you don't have the product in the market, it's tough to meet those requirements in terms of timelines. Now, I think from our vantage point, it's pretty simple that this is going to be a step change over time, incrementally. You're not going to flip a switch and have 50%, 75%, 100% EV on the car side. So if your question is tied to cars, you're talking probably about a 3, 4, 5-year glide plan to get to that level. Because right now, there's a lot of talk about Tesla coming into India. That seems to be delayed. There's a lot of challenges for indigenous players. I mean, Tata has had their struggles scaling up EV. Mahindra, is 2-3 years behind their timeline. So the reality is, until the battery manufacturing infrastructure really comes in terms of how they can build out the cells and the modules, it's going to be tough for the EV industry to scale, because importing EVs is not economically viable, right? I mean, given the unfortunate policies in place tied to this, it's very, very tough because import duties are so high. So I do think it's going to be a 4 to 5 year glide plan to get to that place.
So now with the onset of pandemic, now with people's wallets getting impacted, are you going to offer short-term subscriptions? If yes, can you shed some light on that?
Right. Yeah, I know for sure. I mean, I think that's right. I mean, if you really look at it, people's use cases and their priorities have evolved during this pandemic, and we've certainly seen an uptick in demand for a 1 month, 2 month, 3 month subscription, which is a little bit more in line with this broader uncertainty and this cloud of COVID. And if you think about the needs, especially a lot of people who are more critical medical patients on an ongoing recurring basis, people who are let's say in pregnancy, there's all these different sort of specific use cases now where having something for a shorter tenor makes a lot of sense. And then there's so many different family related modalities that could be tied to this, and there's a lot of, I would say, unique personal work that comes up with the current situation. And people are opportunistic, and some people are looking at it positively, negatively, but they need having that sort of flexibility of having a vehicle. So the use case for that 1, 2, 3 months open up. So I'd say the short answer is definitely.
Okay, so you see a lot of pickup in short-term subscriptions in your business model, right?
So yeah, to put it this way, I mean, earlier, we would see, say, less than 10% of the mix coming from short-term. Today, you see it as high as 50 to 60%. So, it's gone up, meaningfully. It's gone up very meaningfully over that time. That's right.
So if I'm not wrong, you have expanded to 45 cities.
Right,
but
right.
At the same time, a bigger chunk of your business is derived from the top 10 cities.
Right.
So going forward, do we see more demand coming from non-metro and non-cosmopolitan cities? If yes, how are you chalking out your strategies accordingly?
Right. So I think over time you'll certainly see a continued pickup in these smaller tier 3 markets, and I think especially as the air travel and rail travel resumes post COVID here over the next few months. But I think right now, having said that, the big focus is about building a lot more critical mass density in the large top 5, 6 markets, and maybe as high as top 10 markets, but really the top 5, 6 markets. That's the big focus, and that's in fact what we were starting to do before COVID. So from early 2020, like December 19, January, February 20, that was a strategy we were executing on, and then obviously COVID put a halt on a lot of that work. So I think definitely that would be more the priority and focus.
Will you be following the Uber and Ola model and offer, short distance routes on a self-drive basis?
Right. So yeah, I know that's it's a good point. I mean, I think everything is in play. I think for us, we want to be the one-stop shop for all your personal mobility needs. That's always the stated requirement and the mission statement for us as we think about this. And so certainly, everything is on the table in terms of use case. And so everything, from in terms of all distances, all durations for personal mobility, we believe that our platform can fulfill that in a very unique manner, which can be very consistent, reliable, scalable. And so I think we would absolutely consider that, and we'll continue to build out different products around these different use cases in personal mobility.
Okay. So would you like to, share some of the details on the additional business verticals you're working on? For example, shared mobility on Ola, Uber, which you've just said that it's interesting. Something else, like because this COVID has, rewritten the rules of the game. People are expanding. People are diversifying.
Right.
So what do we see from your end?
Right. No, absolutely. Look, absolutely. I think as I said earlier, you're seeing a little bit more bias towards the shorter distance, shorter duration, and so we'll continue to build products to help better serve those use cases for short distance, short duration. So I think you'll see certainly a focus there. I think there's I would say a general call for more flexibility and more convenience, even more so than what was there earlier. And of course, doing that means giving different options for people depending on their distance and duration. So, and also allowing for flexible one-way usage as well. So as opposed to just everything round trip. So I think all of that will continue to build out over the next couple months.
Current turnover and projected turnover, and also what kind of profits are you earning? And do you intend to earn profits on a sustainable basis if you're earning profits? And also, what about raising additional capital? Because any startup needs fresh round of funds to, scale up its business.
Right.
Since you said that you're planning to scale up your business, would you be raising additional capital?
So just there's 6 or 7 questions there. So just to unpack. If you look at it, we've been able to reduce our monthly burn by over 50% over the course of the pandemic. So, COVID that way was actually very good to us, where it helped us to really kind of streamline a lot of our expenses and our broader approach to certain modalities. So I think that definitely helped that we were able to reduce our overall operating burn by 50% plus. And then, if you think about, going forward, certainly, we have very big ambitions that we expect to grow 3x this year, another 3x next year. And we're on track for that at this point. We're expecting to be free cash flow positive by the end of the fiscal year. So that's something where unit economics we've been profitable for, really since the inception. And so, it's really about, scaling up more and more of the supply, and that should take us through profitability, certainly within this fiscal. So, in terms of our volume and scale, as I already mentioned in terms of the supply growth, but we're also very much focused on international expansion as well. And we expect to be out there in multiple countries over the course of this year. And I think we're very keen and bullish on that. I think on the back of that, there's certainly obviously the capital markets have been open, been very warm for a number of different entities in our space. And I think that's something which certainly makes sense for us to actively consider later on towards the second half of the year. There's nothing for us to announce at this stage on that front, but I think we're gonna certainly stay close to that as an opportunity and look at how we might take advantage.
So what is the business roadmap that you have laid for the company? If you can talk a little bit about that.
Well, I think it's really about what I was talking about earlier. The consumer business is going to form the majority. The consumer retail business will form a majority, which is marketplace driven, and then our ZMS enterprise business will probably form about 20% of the business going ahead. So it's going to be majority anchored by the consumer retail business, and then the balance enterprise SaaS. And we expect that the non-India, out of India portion of our consumer business will continue to grow, and over the next 2 or 3 years, we expect a majority of the business to come outside of India. So we expect probably 60% of the business coming outside of India over the next 3 years. So that's kind of how we're broadly seeing this unfold. because outside of India, you have countries like Indonesia, Vietnam, Philippines, Egypt, Nigeria, Brazil, all these countries that have, I would say, similar overall geography, demographics in terms of macro. So it's similar from a geopolitical and sort of economic standpoint, and car ownership penetration, all of those sort of key high number metrics that are there that actually play towards what we're trying to do.
Timeline for becoming a unicorn?
I think you don't really have timelines for such things. I think the reality is that if you look at our business, where it can be, given the market size, forget being a unicorn. You can look at something 20, 30, 40 times that. I think the way we see it is, if you look at where players like Uber are trading today, we believe that this business is a much larger business than Uber, to put it that way. I think we expect to ultimately at scale be a much larger business than Uber.
So thank you for talking to BW Businessworld. It was an honor interacting with you. Thank you so much. We wish you all the best in your vision and your mission.
Thanks a lot.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay.